Hi everybody, here we are again with another year of Virtual Fantasy Con, and today we are going to address the readers, I think. I think we would like to talk to our readers about this because today we're talking about non-human characters and their stories, what's behind their stories. Why we chose these non-human characters. And so one of our authors went to have a haircut, and she's not here, so she might pop in as we're talking. So if you see another one coming, that's what's going on. So anyways, I guess I'll start. And my name is Denise Guru, and I am, of course, your moderator. And the non-human characters, you know, I have quite a few. And when I write, I tend to cross genres. I'll include, I'll hint to like sci-fi alien type characters in my fantasy stories, and I think a lot of us do that nowadays. I mean, non-human characters can go from angels to dragons to unicorns to aliens to star seeds. I mean, jinn. I mean, it's as big as your imagination, and it is as much as the author knows. These are three of my books, Candlelight and Cobwebs, and of course you can see there's a Black Panther sitting in the back there, and actually he's one of my non-human characters, and this is a paranormal romance. So that kind of hints to what that character is about. And then Dragon Horse, you can see the horse and the dragon, so that kind of tells you a little bit about the non-human characters in Dragon Horse. I started out writing Dragon Horse addressing horses, and the main character's got this huge affinity with horses, and she's on this journey of self-discovery, and she has to save this dying horse that ends up being her greatest teacher. Now the story follows along with my own life experiences. I'm a Reiki master, and I specialize in healing with the equine, and so it's about one of my first patients, which was a ex-racehorse. And anyway, so this story just evolved from this horse, but the horse kind of has, in the story, the horse has a connection to the dragon. And the reason I chose the dragon was because both of the horse and the dragon symbolize life, death, and rebirth, or life, death, and resurrection. Candlelight and Cobwebs, and even the second book of my Dragon Horse, I should have kept it, Samaya. I'm a little bit into the alien. I hint towards the alien stuff, Arcturians. So I hint to otherworldly beings, even though it's more of a fantasy setting. So that's kind of like where I am in this topic today with non-human characters. So let's go on to the next person. We'll go to Auden. Auden, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you derived out your non-human character.
So I'm Auden Johnson, and like Denise, I really like putting non-human characters into my stories. I mean, all my stories, the main protagonists are sort of like otherworldly beings. And one of my stories, The Shield, and book 2, Chains of the Shield, are pretty much surrounding these non-human beings called Shield. And they can pull energy and darkness and store it inside themselves, and they use it to create all these different types of powers. And then for the Shield, there are these on top, under the non-human characters, are these other ones called Delprali. And they are like animals in human form because they can only drink water and they can only eat meat. And any other type of food that they want to eat will make them sick. So it's really interesting just playing around with these otherworldly beings, because in my stories, they all look like us, except for maybe have different color eye color and different color hair. And it's just a lot of fun to take these, because they can't come across as monsters. But I like the fact that I can make them really likable and show people that they have family and that they love, and that they're just like us, and they go through things that we go through. And I like playing with powers, so it's really fun to play with non-human characters to give them powers.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of like creating what we would like to have ourselves. You know, we live vicariously through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Sound like superheroes.
Yeah, right.
Like superheroes. They get all kinds of powers, but they look human.
Yeah. So I guess, well, that leads into you, Tom.
Well, I have an affinity with dragons for some reason. I just love dragons, and I don't have a copy of my first book that I wrote, Dragon Rising, but in that one, the dragon was actually the good guy. Is actually the good girl. It was a female character. She was an elf, and found that she was foretold in a prophecy, and that she had dragon blood in her veins. And the whole book was about her learning how to become a dragon. And then now I'm now working on a series, Rangers of Lorien. The first book was A Whisper in the Shadows. And I've got the second book out, Where Shadows Fall. And I'm working on a third book. This will be a trilogy that I am using to introduce the entire series. And in this one, the dragon's not the good guy. The dragon is actually the bad guy. And it's actually, the dragon is a spirit. There were 12 spirits created in the beginning of all things. And five of these 12 spirits fell and became evil spirits. And the leader of those evil spirits is Narworm, and he is a dragon. So he is kind of trying to mess up everything, and the main characters, which are rangers, are trying to keep everything fixed and make it's good, classic good versus evil. But I like to have other non-human characters. I have in the first book, Beric he's a human ranger, but he meets a woman who's a Varda, and she's elf-like, dark skin, blue eyes, and real small. She's only 5 foot tall. Her race is all like that, and they're very agile and graceful. And she's an assassin, and he gets mixed up with her, and they have to solve her problems. And it just gets more involved. In book 2, I introduce at the end of book 1 a character that is a cat-like person. They're called Zumarians. They have mostly human feet. They're completely covered in fur with the cleft lip of a cat and sharp teeth and claws. So I kind of like to create my own races, and some of them are like the Varda, kind of based on elves a little bit, pointed ears. But I really kind of like to give them different names and different characteristics than the traditional. So, and I've got a Drowder race, which is similar to dwarves, and some frost giants that haven't been brought into the story as yet, but they will eventually. So, but it's all revolving around this dragon and what he's trying to destroy the world, basically.
I know I write about dragons too. I love dragons, and I'm always trying to go to the good dragon. But in writing, it's like, okay, well, we got to have some bad dragons too. And I kind of hint at the reptilian race, because there's so much on Facebook and nowadays, the people, the otherworldly beings, they talk about the reptilians and, President Obama might be a reptilian and all that. And I just thought, oh gosh, I need to go there, But, when you talk about the cat race, it's so interesting because Caroline Cobwebs actually was inspired by my daughter's cat that she rescued, but I just thought it was going to be a really light romance, and I wasn't really going to go into magic or paranormal or anything like that. But then I stumbled on, in my research, I stumbled on this alien race that is called the avians, and they're actually a cat race. And so I thought, oh, how interesting. So in researching and watching YouTube videos and stuff, it all started to kind of cultivate and make sense to me, and just kind of like the things that I'm drawn to and things that resonate with me. And so, I started, okay, even though this book is written more like an urban fantasy or urban paranormal, they go way, 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 way back in time, and how this avian race, how they interact with Alexander the Great, because they go back into one of the characters was actually an oracle at Delphi. And so how did this cat panther race, how did all that intertwine? And it's going to go into another book, but so I was inspired for this cat race by my daughter's cat. And even though when I started writing this book, I had no clue about this. So I'm kind of curious as what inspired your characters, your otherworldly beings, or what inspired, the power that your characters have? Is it something that's integral to yourself, or is it wishful thinking, or what was the inspiration behind the story? So go ahead, Auden, you can start out.
Well, what I like to do is go on like Pinterest and search for different types of images. So I would just search for just an image, and it would inspire me to create a different type of character. So for instance, in book 3 of my series, I created these sort of animal human hybrids. And I just I just looked at the images, and I would add like wings or scales, or like owl eyes or something like that to the characters. And I also have this little, like, really cute dog, and he's it's like a wolf, but it's sort of a different type of wolf, and it's really fun to just play around with animals that actually exist, and then just making them look a bit different. And for my power system, I pretty much just thought it would be really fun to just have characters who would play around with darkness, because for some strange reason I'm sort of fascinated with darkness. So it's just sort of thinking about, like, what if darkness had energy, and there are certain people who can reach into darkness and grab this energy and just sort of mold it, and having this energy inside them changes their body so that they age slower, they heal faster, and actually they can't get their hair cut, they can't do piercings, and they can't do piercings because the darkness, it heals their body so quickly that it just makes their hair grow back whenever they cut it, or makes their closes to piercing, and they can't get tattoos either. So they can't really change their bodies because there's energy inside them. But the good thing is that they live for ages. They live for hundreds and hundreds of years, and really the only way that they can really die is that they have this core inside of them that's sort of the source of their power. And if the core gets damaged, or if their core is removed, then their body becomes unstable and they disappear. And that's really just something that I just came up with on my own, because it was just, I was trying to figure out how the power works inside the body, because these characters aren't really mortal, but it's very hard to kill them. So what exactly would hurt them? So I just figured out that their core, that they need their core, and they need their power to live. And if they use too much of their power, then they die, or they lose a limb, or something similar to that. So their power is really their life force. That's why I call it their lifeblood. And that's pretty much how the power works in my story.
Well, I just think it's interesting, do we just pick this stuff out of the air or what? You know, it's just like, well, how do we channel this or what? You know, how do we come up with this?
Yeah.
You know, so I see Amber is with us. And so Amber, we were just talking about our non-human character and what inspired this non-human character in our story. Was it, you know, something that we resonate with, or was it something that, you know, wishful thinking that maybe we would love to have the powers that are not, you know, I mean, so tell us a little bit about yourself and your story and what inspired your non-human character.
Yeah, sure. Like she said, I'm Amber. I don't know if this. Hopefully, this is catching. Is it catching my voice?
We see you. We hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, the books I have right now and stuff, they don't have the non-human characters, but a lot of times I do focus on them. So, usually dragons and stuff like that, which has been a long thing of mine that I've always loved from start of like Harry Potter and stuff. But I preferred that whole of the stuff, and especially with that idea of how a lot of people connect them with cat-like and feline stuff. So me growing up with cats and stuff, used to the cats, so then you turn that into the voice of the dragons and give them more intelligence and a fear. So that adds more of kind of a lot bigger a fear of something that's actually intelligent and even maybe more intelligent than you and even older than you is more of a terrifying thing to me than just, oh, it's kind of just a random wild animal that breathes fire. It's like being able to hear him say what he's thinking is definitely something that I'd be more terrified of for me. And I write a lot of darker fantasy, so the more terrifying something is to connect to, it's the better for me.
Well, you and Amber, you and Auden seem to be inspired by darkness. You know, I mean, how vast is darkness? What hides in the dark? You know, I mean, you really, you can. I mean, so
it's definitely one of those fears that every human has since the beginning of time was what's in the dark and what can it hold.
Right.
Just the eyes that just, and you don't see the body or anything like that. That's just other in general.
Yeah, well, it is.
And I also think that there's also internal darkness, which I like to experiment with my stories, is that the demons inside ourselves. So the character, they actually pull darkness from natural darkness and also from people darkness. So it's more so I'm experimenting with, okay, if these characters touch the person's darkness, what does that actually do to the person? So I just think darkness is just really, it's very complex, it's very in-depth, and it's really interesting to play around with it.
Yeah.
The darkness that I have in my stories, though, my whole purpose for the darkness is for it to be defeated. I mean, I've got to have something to battle against. So that comes from the dark stuff, and in my books, it's shadows. I've got a whole realm of shadows called the world between worlds, and all kinds of stuff in there. But the whole purpose of it is so that I can show the Barrick is the good guy. He's a human. He's the good guy, and he's got a strong will. He can resist the darkness. He's one of the rare people that can resist that. So that's where he comes in. But in talking about this, the 12 spirits of creation are all animals. There's lion, bear, owl, eagle. They're all different kinds of animals that are the spirits. And the dark ones are the dragon, the beetle, a shrew, for example. So they influence the things that are in the physical world through dreams and visions. And books are progressing through that.
Yeah, so it sounds like, Tom, you're connecting with animal totems, the totems and their spirits, and bringing that out in your story. Yeah.
Barrick, his name is Barrick, Baric, but his he is heavily influenced by the bear spirit, who is Odrus. And he has seen Odrus in a vision early in the first book. You see that right at the very beginning. And Odrus tells him he's on a journey. He's got a destiny. And so that's all being played out. And he's even now in the second book, he gets a new sword, which has been enchanted. And he gets a name for that sword, which is Claw of the Bear, but in the arcane language, they call it Mythodris. So he's got a sword named Mythodris, which also is a totem for the Odrus bear. So.
Okay, that's cool. Well, when we were talking about the darkness within, Jinn came to mind. And I don't know if Auden, or Amber, about Jinn. It's actually one of the first races, one of the first races that were here before humans were here. And actually they're saying that a lot of the darkness within humans has to do with the Jinn attachment. And so I'm going there. I'm doing this. I'm doing a bullying anthology with 4 other authors. And so that's when I decided, what makes a person the way they are, evil. So I found this Jinn, and it was like, where have I been? I didn't know anything about Jinn, So when you were talking about the darkness within, the Jinn just popped up in my head. So this leads to another question. What have you learned about yourself when you are researching or when you are writing about your character? A lot of us, when we write, we're kind of giving a little bit of our soul, we're bearing a little bit of our soul. So in writing about these characters, did it reveal anything about ourselves, or did we learn anything about, ourselves, or just learn in general from writing about these non-human characters? Auden, you want to go?
All right. Well, a lot of my characters, they go through a lot of inner struggle, or a lot of inner struggle, or self-confidence problems. And I know, for instance, with me, I've had, growing up, I've had self-confidence problems. So it's really inspiring to see my characters. They have these problems, but then they overcome it. Even they're non-human, but they still have these issues. Like, for instance, and she is half human. And she's bullied most of her life because of this. And she also looks a bit different than everyone else, which is something that I've had to deal with. So I put all that into my characters, and it's very interesting to watch them grow up. So I know I've discovered that I'm drawn to characters who struggle like I did, and they overcame it. And it's really, I like characters like that.
Yep. Tom?
Well, one of the things I think that drives me, especially just for different races, non-humans, is to deal with prejudice. In my first book, the Varda female assassin, Whisper, she's basically very arrogant, and Barrick, as they start to get to know each other, starts changing her mind. She starts seeing her prejudices, and because he has no prejudice at all. And he even at one point, she's asking about that. He tells her, we're all just people, whether you got fur or are only 4 feet tall, or got big noses and beards, or whatever. We're all just people. And she realizes that to him, everyone's the same. I think that's one of the things that I seem to deal with a lot in that first book. And I'm, as far as the second book, I think I'm dealing more with like you were talking about, the confidence issues, where Barrick is beginning to wonder about his actual ability to fulfill this got for him, and whether or not he's actually failing in that. So.
Yeah, I think for all of us, it's a journey. We journey right along with our characters, and we build our confidence right along with our characters, So, what about you, Amber?
Yeah.
A lot of mine, I have a very, very almost gray view and stuff when it comes to the world. So, although what some people may think is complete evil and stuff, that's not the evil side. This is actually the good side, and I incorporate that idea and stuff a lot of times in my books. And I even reverse roles and stuff. So, things like Wicked and all these others, where it made the original antagonist as a guy almost kind of, and shines a lot better of a light on him, was one thing that I connected with a lot and stuff, especially with studying a lot of different history through different countries. And I won't go into too much of stuff because that sometimes can get real. But there's so much throughout history where if you read completely different textbooks in another country, where we'll say, oh, we were on the right side, they might say, well, we were on the right side. So it's then a question of who really was the good guy in it, and actually incorporate a whole lot of that and allow people to question stuff like that throughout my books and stuff, especially with making what was thought to be being evil and stuff is actually your protagonist that you're following, and then by the time you realize that they're actually the one, all these evil acts, you're like, well, I like this person, they're kind of the good guy throughout this whole thing, and then you realize, well, maybe I should look at the world a little different stuff, especially because it makes you connect with a lot more people, and it removes a lot of prejudice too, because at that point you're seeing both sides of the coin, and seeing where you might be in the wrong and where they might actually be in the right, and you can start to agree and get along with people a whole lot more in the end.
Yep. Yeah, that's like me. I like to get into all the forbidden history. And the more the mundane world says, no, 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 the more I say, yes, 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 I'm going to go there. So a lot of what I write has a lot of meaning and a lot of, I try to write a lot of messages. And, when I incorporate otherworldly beings, I'm trying to get people, the readers, to think outside the box. And, talking about my horses, you're looking at a horse, but really, what's inside that horse suit? At the end of the day, when that horse's body's died, it's still a being. It's still just like all the rest of us. We just come here in a different suit, so I have a lot of messages. I try to, so I'm just wondering if any of you guys have another type of message that you're trying to get your reader to think about, outside the box. Auden, you want to take that? Tom or whoever.
So going along. Well, going along the line of what everyone's saying about everyone is just the same. It's like I like to make sure my characters all have different types of skin color, because I like to have a very diverse cast in my books, and that's really very important to me. And also, there's one character, his name is Divine, and he has dark skin and red eyes. And in this world, it's sort of like, it's similar to our world, where he's considered evil just because he looks like that, and he's actually not. He's kind of nice, but that's the type of stuff that I like to deal with. It's just these characters who may look evil, but they're really not. They're actually really nice, and they really care about their friends and their family. And I actually want to make sure my book is as diverse, so every type of person can see themselves in my characters.
Right.
I think I do a little bit of that with my Zumarian race, the lion people. That everybody sees them, thinks they're being aggressive, because when they grin, they got all these big sharp teeth and got sharp claws, but they're not. They're actually a lot more polite than other races are. So there's a difference there. And I don't, he's talking about writing messages. I don't really try to put any, I mean, I know there's some get in there, but I'm not trying to put, I'm just simply trying to entertain. And the messages will come, I know, but I just focus on entertaining.
What about you, Amber?
I mean, besides that one stuff, a lot of times messages of mine will just kind of pop up without me even realizing it until I've already read over it, kind of things. Like, I do a lot of the controversial, what people won't really talk about and stuff. And it's definitely taking the sides of seeing it, such as in my books right now, my Kala series and stuff. I actually take that side of everyone constantly keeps talking, oh, this group of people who somehow uses magical abilities and stuff of controlling different powers are these evil things that are going to try to destroy the world. And there's even a moment where trying to actually pretty much destroy all life. But you actually read on why they're doing that stuff. And then you see the actual government being against them stuff and fighting to destroy the ones that are using the magic. You start wondering, well, is my government actually full on what I trust it to be and stuff? I've learned I do a lot of questioning stuff, allowing people to question authority and stuff, and not even the way that, like, oh, I hate authority kind of thing, but just questioning whether some of the things are truly all morally aligned with what they fully believe.
Yeah.
It's just mostly all mine are just kind of moral.
Well, and I think, for the reader, a lot of when we write, we're going into worlds, or we're world building, we're creating worlds, we're doing research, or, like what I like to say is I channel a lot of what I get. And, so, a lot of it might be just coming out of thin air, but I don't really think it is. Because when we talk about different universes and, we're all able to connect into other universes just by thinking about it and just by sitting down and typing, So we only have 4 more minutes here. So let's go around and tell our reader one quick, interesting fact about ourselves. So does anybody have maybe something strange or a weird way that we write? So let's go around really quick. Auden, do you have anything?
Oh, wow. Not necessarily a weird way that I write, but I'm like a total video game nerd. I actually get a lot of inspiration from video games, and it's really funny. And it's really interesting because I'm into Pokemon, and I've never thought I'd be into Pokemon, but I play that game and I go hard into that game. And it's really kind of ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun.
What about you, Tom?
Well, I'm a gamer too, but I like role-playing games. I actually started Dungeons & Dragons before it was ever called Dungeons & Dragons. Yes, I'm that old.
Yeah.
So I like that, and I actually one of my favorite games is Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and I actually use that to create characters. I'll create images of characters, and that gives me the character for my first book, Dragon Rising, was a character I created in Skyrim, and it gave me an idea. I had her designed a certain way and put her with a panther-like saber-toothed cat, and had her hunting with that cat, and that gave me an idea about her being actually dragon blood. And when I sat down and started writing it, it just came right on out. So it was like it was all sitting back in there or something. But that's generally the way I write anyway. I just sit down and start writing, and it's like the characters tell me what to put down on paper.
Well, those games are all other different universes too. So, what about you, Amber?
I mean, like they said, stuff, video games and stuff, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, all that stuff. But all of my stuff I can actually pinpoint to back when I was in elementary school and read the third Harry Potter book. And it's actually inspired me to do everything in my life, from going to actually become a teacher because Professor Lupin in that book made me think I want to be like that kind of thing. And then all the different creatures that are shown up in the books, it's just like it's inspired all kinds of different writings and stuff that I've done. Because I started with writing fan fiction because I was getting tired of waiting for the next book to come out, so I'd write my own book for it, kind of thing. Like,
That's cool.
This is the official book. I wrote this for her. And then occasionally I'll just doodle some stuff and put them in different games and stuff. Like the RPGs, I actually wrote a little story based on a campaign I did for a Dungeons & Dragons game that friends and I had and stuff, which was, it was silly, and I couldn't really do much with it just because of how random it was. It didn't have any solid plot line, but it was just fun to just look back on it and write about it, because we had one person that had a pet dragon that would just kind of fly, take its own time, even though it was supposed to relay life messages all the time.
Well, that's interesting. Yep, we all got our different ways. I guess my weird thing is I'm a healer. I heal with my hands, and we're going to run out of time. So I just want to thank everybody for listening, and please look up all the authors here and go back to the graphics included in the video and learn about their books that they read and how you can connect with them. So everybody, thank you so very much.